Yes.
Sir, I hope you can hear me now.
Yes.
Perfect. Are we ready to move forward then?
Yes.
Perfect. So, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the live webinar for discussing the future of international higher education post-COVID, organized by the Division of Student Welfare, LPU. And I take immense pleasure in welcoming Dr. Bertrand de Hartingh, Counselor for Education, Science and Culture Embassy in France in India, and also the country director of the French Institute in India. So we welcome you, and it's a pleasure to have you with us today.
Pleasure is all mine.
Oh, well. So we really look forward to hearing what your thoughts are, sir, since, in the space of a few months, our globally interconnected societies, they have transformed into a life of lockdown with a very restricted mobility that we can see right now. Every form of international education is currently affected, and we would love to hear what you have to say, that what the future holds for the abroad education for people in our country and in yours as well. With this, I would now like to welcome Dr. Sorabh Lakhanpal, Head Division of Student Welfare. We have with us Dr. Sorabh Lakhanpal. Very good afternoon, sir. How are you doing today?
All good, all good.
Perfect, sir. So Dr. Sorabh Lakhanpal will be moderating and making it clearer for all of us to understand what, is going to happen in the coming few minutes that we all have together. I also welcome Ms. Supriya Mathew, Deputy Director, International Affairs, LPU. Madam, I welcome you. Hope you're doing good today.
I'm very well, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am. So I think we are ready to move forward, sir.
I'm always ready.
Perfect, sir. Yeah. So I now hand over the platform to Dr. Sorabh Lakhanpal to take us forward for the discussion on international higher education post-COVID-19.
Very good afternoon to one and all present here today in this international webinar that is being organized by Lovely Professional University. And on behalf of our university, I am very thankful to Dr. de Hartingh, who is the Counselor for Education Embassy of France in India.
Namaskar. Connection problem.
Who is also country director, are most dynamically moving rather than any other area. Now the people in the education, they are trying to set some pioneer things, some premium initiatives, some other things that are definitely going to help them in this new normal. So as you have consented us to deliver a topic or deliver us the insight on the topic, what is the future of international higher education post-COVID? So I request you, sir, to kindly start your address with our audience who has been associated with us through our Facebook and Instagram page. And then there are a few audience in this chat room also. So over to Dr. de Hartingh for his topic, future of international higher education post-COVID, before we take our questions. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for these kind introductions. Let me first say a few things. Yes, COVID is hard times for those of us who are working on the human exchanges. All of a sudden, the planes were cancelled, people had to stay at home, universities, higher education institutions were closed, or have to work on a very, very minimal workforce. And right at the beginning of the crisis, it was extremely sad to see all this momentum, all this dynamic being suddenly and brutally cut. But a crisis is always an opportunity. So what are the gains that we can see now from the very first 2 months or 3 months, in some cases around the world, of the COVID-19? I think the fact that we are all more or less confined to our homes, or for those of us who are lucky enough to go to the office, which is my case, to a limited amount of physical interaction, we discovered, or we rediscovered, the power of connectivity. So actually, although physical human exchanges were prohibited or at least not recommended, the connection between people has never been that strong. We all know that because every day, hours after hours, we receive a lot of invitation to follow, to participate, to watch, to see, to listen. B, in terms of higher education, I do not think COVID will mark the end of the international cooperation. I think it will probably open a new era for another methodology of working together. The COVID was actually very positive for the environment. We have all seen that, the animals are coming back, the dolphins in Venezia and the ducks in the street of Paris and the eagles in my own garden here. And so it's also a good moment to think about, okay, how could we develop human exchange and protecting our Earth? And thanks to the gains in connectivity, the development of new platforms, new tools, I think we can now start to see that the future of the cooperation, the future of the mobility will be a kind of hybrid one. That people will be allowed to really prepare their journey, that faculties, heads of institutions will be able to connect to each other without having to travel to another country online, and then make sure that whenever the student feels ready to go, her or his departure is really well prepared. Right now, we don't know, neither in India nor in France, when physically people will be allowed to travel again. As you know, the situation in France is much better now. Almost all the country is deconfined. Schools are reopening, not yet universities. We expect the situation to be even better next month, which means that by September, universities, colleges, higher education institutions will start thinking about how to welcome students again. We all know that, like in my favorite university, amongst a few other in India, which have the best possible name, which is Lovely University, we all know also that we will have to take into account the fact that whenever there were 100 students in a classroom, COVID imposed us, at least until we have a complete access to a good vaccine, that only half of the students will be able to be physically there. So anyway, for each and every institution, we have to live with online on class. Now, we have decided to fully maintain our support to whichever students would like to go to France. We have decided to increase the amount of our scholarship, which this year will be more than 10 crores, and to give a scholarship to students already admitted to France and, of course, being evaluated as worth of a scholarship, even if they don't go immediately to France. Meaning, for instance, that if a student from Lovely University apply for an admission in a French institution, is admitted, apply for a scholarship and receive the scholarship, he or she will actually receive the benefit of the scholarship, even if the physical mobility is not there yet, but will come October, November, December, January, whenever. Plus, also the good sign, the good positive results or conclusion of the COVID is that all institutions now are developing online solutions. I perfectly understand the reluctance of some students to go only online, and I am saying they're right. At the end of the day, you also want the physical, the tangible contact with the professor, with the other students, and you want to feel the experience. Studying in India online or studying in India for real will be two completely different experiences. But I think that it's nice to see that most of the business schools in France, engineering schools, and slowly almost all of higher education institutions, and I know it's the same in India, are moving online so as to offer students start online, probably keep some courses online, and join us physically as soon as you can.
Right. Great, sir. I'm feeling very happy that you talk about that, how this COVID was good for our environment. And along with this, it is not going to hamper any human exchange in coming times. Yes, of course, we are very happy that you talk about the new opportunities which will be given to LPU students also, and to the other part of the India and other Indian universities also, once the situation is starting getting better. Yes, of course, you have said very rightly that things are getting better day by day, and things are going to change even in next 1 month, next 2 months, and next 3 months, and it is going to open the doors once again. It was very interesting to hear from you that your scholarships are being reworked for the timelines, and it is made more student friendly. And you also talk about the online solutions. So very happy that how you highlighted all the matters, and our students and our university is going to benefit out of that. But we would like to continue this discussion a little more. I just want to understand that how the situation with French higher education in specific is, and how the economy of France is getting affected out of this. I really want to know about the same.
Well, France, like many other countries, have already put in place a package, a large package. Actually, it's dozens of billions of euros to support the economy in each and every field. And higher education, of course, is a very important field. So right now, the Ministry for Higher Education and Research and Innovation, which is the title, the full title, is assessing when and how to allow people to come back physically to the campuses. It's also very important for foreign students in France, because some of them are also trying to find part-time job in order to better support themselves, that now people are allowed to go back to the workplace again. Yesterday afternoon, our Prime Minister allowed for a complete reset of all physical transportation across the country. The only thing which is still yet prevented is large amount of people meeting in the same place at the same moment. So, for instance, if you go to France right now, you cannot, because India has not yet reopened the borders, neither did the Schengen space, but you will be able to go to a museum. You won't be able to go to a concert. So we do hope that from September to November onwards, most of the higher education institutions will be allowed to reopen their doors, will be supported because it's already into place with specific schemes from the government. But you know, most of the business schools and engineering schools in France are actually very robust, because in one hand, they are self-sufficient. They have enough resources to cope with a crisis like this. And on the other hand, as you know, the French government subsidizes a lot higher education and higher education. So a professor in the university, a faculty in a business school is still receiving her or his salary, and the money in order to the institution to perform is still here. Now, our Prime Minister decided 2 years ago that welcoming international students is a very high priority for the French government and for each and every institution. That policy is still online. France, as you know, is one of the pillars of the European Union. So all measures about the opening of the European space have to be decided by the member states. But most member states are now reopening their borders within Europe, and it is expected that the Schengen borders will probably be reopened either by July or by August. I, of course, cannot say anything about the borders of India. I don't know, because India started, if I may say so, the epidemic in India started later than in Europe. So the situation in India is the one we know now. So it will probably take for India a little bit more months, but I'm expecting Indian students to be able to go to France by the end of the year.
Rightly said, sir. Rightly said that things are a little better now in European countries, especially the France, and India is still not out of this phase. So it will be following in some few couple of months, then when India will be towards normalization. Right.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that was really nice to know that French government is going out and helping the scholarships and everything. I just understand, Dr. Hartingh, how is the situation of the current international students in France? There are a lot of Indian students and other international students who go to France and study for full-time courses. So how are they coping up? How is the system accepting them and helping them out? Because you understand, the fears of the student, their parents, when they are in a different territory. How are things working out?
Gabriel, my daughter was in an exchange program with Columbia University in New York City, right when the COVID started to strike the USA. So after a long-term discussion, Columbia professors, faculty, so forth, she decided to come back to France. So I know perfectly well the hassle and the trouble for our parents to manage a child who is abroad for study. Right now, we have two situations. We have still more than 8,000 Indian students in France, and we have been following them very carefully up to the point that we have put a special package in place to support those, for instance, who had part-time job, who lost their job because of the closing of everything. And with our agency in Paris, Campus France agency in Paris, we've put a little bit amount of money to support them. Most of them actually cope quite well with the situation. Now they're all enjoying beaches and streets and cafe terraces and everything. They cannot go to the movie yet. That will be for the end of June. But very frankly, we had one very sad case out of more than 8,000. So I'm very sad for the sad case, but mostly they are doing well. Now, for the next batch, which is, of course, our preoccupation, admission processes are already open. So any student from India could actually go online to all these education, and they can go all online to our Campus France offices in India. My 13 Campus France officers are working online. They now do the interview on Skype because students cannot physically go to the Campus France offices. So we've shifted everything for more than 1 month already, so that students from India willing to study in France receive the same benefit, the same service. There is only one little detail, which is not a detail, which is the physical production of the certificate, degrees and diplomas. That is still a bit a hassle. Some of them have mailed their diploma while we are working to find solutions. But the service right now is still here. You could go to Campus France, Nidhi is listening to us. You could go to Campus France Chandigarh, which is the office which covers lovely Punjab University, get Nidhi's support, advices, online registration, and get the admission to the French higher education institution. Then you could apply for a scholarship. Then the institution in France will tell the student, pick for online courses, or our courses will start that month, or we will let you know when. For instance, I have in my office someone who applied to go to study to Sciences Po Paris. She was supposed to leave early July. She cannot leave early July. So Sciences Po Paris have told her, look, September, December, we will let you know if it will be online or physical. At least by January next year, you have to be in Paris.
Right.
That's wonderful. And before, I take you away from the topic, there is something that you should know over here. And probably you would also like to tell something to the students about this. See, I know and you know that French education is highly subsidized. Even Dr. Sorabh knows that because we have been working together. But students generally do not know that French education is highly subsidized. So would you like to talk a bit about that and tell the students who are present over here with us today that how, French encourage that, Indian students, specifically I'm talking about Indian students because I'm talking about LPU students, how the French government encourages the Indian students to go through these subsidized, education programs to France. Can you just talk about a little about that?
Thank you very much, Supriya, for this question, because you're right, we don't speak enough Kabinahi Kafihe, but in that case, it's really Kafinahi. So, for the students who go to colleges or universities, in French, colleges and universities as considered as university, have to pay exactly 1,300 euros per year for a bachelor and 3,000 plus euros for a master degree, which is completely ridiculous because, of course, it costs us much more. It costs us between approximately in France, the cost of a student on average is around 15,000 euros. Of course, if you speak about psychology, it will be less. If you speak about developing highly sophisticated engineering studies in the nuclear field, it will be much more. So for the taxpayer, a student costs roughly 15,000 euros a year. For the student, it's 1,300 or 3,000 for the degree. So you immediately understand that actually, without getting a scholarship, you already get a scholarship if you compare those costs to any other cost. Now, this is true for universities and colleges delivering degrees in French. The situation is a bit different for the degrees taught in English. The degrees taught in English by French colleges and universities are slightly more expensive. They go from 6,000 to 8,000 for a master degree on average. But again, it's much less than what will be the real cost if the student had to pay 100% of them. Third case are the business school and engineering schools or some very specific schools like, for instance, Cordon Bleu or other schools which train in culinary or design or fashion, all these items which are, of course, very strong in France. They have a different business model, but apart from a specific program which could be as expensive as the one in the US or the UK, most of these programs cost roughly between 8,000 to 12,000 euros a year, which is much less than what you will have to pay in the UK today or in the US.
Absolutely.
Basically, why is that? Because most of these schools, higher education institution, the business, for instance, the business school, they are subsidized through the Chamber of Commerces. ESSEC, HEC, and all Audiencia Nantes, and so forth and so forth. I'm not going to quote all of them. They belong to an association which is called the Chamber of Commerce and Industry, which again put a lot of money into it. Because we all know that you cannot do anything without skills. And where do you learn skills if not there? So be assured that going to France, paying what you have to pay, if you go for public education, which is extremely strong in France, in French, you pay almost nothing. If you don't feel that you're able to go and study in French, you could pick those programs in English. It will cost you a little bit more. If you want to study engineering or business school, you will pay again a little bit more, but for all these programs, you could also receive a scholarship from us, or from the region, or from other institutions.
Thank you, Dr. Hartingh. But since you talk about the difference between the universities who are French-speaking and who teaches in English, but tell me that isn't it difficult to study in a country which is not an English-speaking country?
So, I'm a lover of languages, so the more languages I know, the better I am. What we saw some years ago that, specifically in India, Indian students were not thinking about France, because they thought, oh, it's France, it's in French. which was already a mistake and is a complete mistake today, because due to the internationalization of the French higher education system, all of the institutions are now delivering classes, courses, master's degree, bachelor degrees in English. So actually the students have to decide what matters. Do I want the complete French experience? And in that case, I would recommend to the students to benefit from the proximity of Alliance Française Chandigarh, which has excellent online courses. So right from your house around, or from your dormitory in the lovely Punjab University, you could know, now you could learn French. And I will go for that. I will go for, okay, at the beginning it will be a bit difficult, but I will really enjoy the complete experience, and I will meet a lot of people. Some students say, I'm happy to learn French, but I don't feel that confident that I will prevail, so I'm gonna pick for a degree taught in English. Absolutely fine for us. We accept both. We recommend, it's not an obligation, it's not compulsory, but we recommend that the students have at least a A2, if not B1 level of French, because even if you study in English, well, you know, in the street, you need to know where you are, you want to go into a shop and buy something, you want to go to the movie when the theaters will be open, you want to go to a coffee shop and order food, you want to discuss with your friends, maybe you want to have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and for all these very important items, you need languages. And actually what we see also is that a lot of Indian students are starting with English courses, courses taught in English, and moving during the year to French taught classes. So actually, France is a country of freedom. It's part of our motto, liberty, equality, fraternity. So they're free. I would recommend to go for the tough way, which is doing it in French. Plus, it's less expensive when it's in French. But I can perfectly understand that for many, many reasons, I prefer to do it in English. Now, one thing is very important. The job market in France is in French. Like the job market in Germany is in German, or the job market in the UK is in English. Right. So some students came back to us, say, I have a degree from that business school, a degree taught in English. I'm trying to find a job in France, and I don't understand because, you know, all these people, they speak French. Well, we haven't been colonized by UK. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing. So the official language of France in French, so the people at the job place, at the workplace, they speak French. And this is why also I would recommend the students to say, okay, I'm gonna go to France because it's the best quality price ratio in the world. I will learn French before going because it's easier while in France, and I will make the best of this experience. And then one day I'll come back to India because there is 1,000 companies, French companies investing, developing, producing in India. Chennai, the biggest hub for French company cars in India. Aerospace is extremely important. Despite the actual crisis, it will come back. And aerospace is not only for civilian matters, as we all know, renewable energy, agriculture, agribusiness, transportation, urbanism, land, urban planning, architecture, design, all this. I mean, India is developing so fast. India needs a lot of skills. So a student with a very strong experience of the French way, knowing English, of course, because everybody speaks English at lovely Punjab University, and French, gives oneself, herself, himself a very strong asset on her CV, on his CV, and his professional perspectives.
Since you were talking, rightly explained, and since we were talking about that lot of French companies are there in India, so tell me, we know that France is the 6th biggest investor in India, but how
Yes.
this pandemic has affected the current economic ties between India and France?
Not much, actually, because even if the factories had, of course, to close, Even if the French Airbuses cannot, well, they started to fly again some days ago. The partnership between India and France is not a short-term partnership. It's not a day-to-day partnership. I'm selling you one tomato, I'm selling you one airplane, and that's it. It's a long-term perspective because, first of all, our two countries share a lot of values. Both democracies, both members of the G20. India was invited by France to be there for the last G7 meeting in France. Strategic partnership, economic ties, you don't build them in one day and you don't build them for one day. So a company like Airbus, like Schneider, which is French, like Alstom, which built a lot of things for instance, the metros or the plants in India, like Peugeot, like Capgemini, all these companies which are developing their own assets, their own plant, their own activity in India, they will stay. And they will stay because most of these people, most of the CEOs of this company in India are actually Indian. Most of the engineers, the accountants, everybody at the workplace is Indian. You have very few French people working in French company in India because France knows that it could tap on the Indian skills. But you will notice that, for instance, today, Wipro India has selected a French CEO, meaning there is something in the way that people are trained in French. People ask me, but why is France a bit different? And I thought really long about that. And finally, I found the perfect answer, the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower, for many, many people, is an iconic tourist place. The Eiffel Tower was the very first building built by a French engineer whose name was Eiffel, who built a lot of bridges and buildings all across the world using a new technology at that time. And I think that's the key to understand why people trained in France so thrive when they come back to their own country or go elsewhere. Is because we always combine culture and technology, business and science and the arts. This is why the French fashion houses are still so successful. They hire people from all around the world, by the way, because it's never only culture or only economy, science or only technology. It's always a mix of everything. And that's something you learn at the French university, colleges, business school, engineering school, and so forth.
Great answer, Dr. Hartingh. It is really eye-opener for us also that how French people are different from others. They take culture, they take innovation with them. They prefer the local people getting over. They are really happy for this answer. But tell me.
Let me just say one thing, which is actually more important. It's the reason why we feel India and France are so easily connected, because you share the same value.
Right.
For every Indian, culture is very important. Spirituality is very important, but science, economy, technology is also very important. Like us, you don't differentiate. You make a kind of symbiosis. And this is why we thought, why are we so few people from each country to the other? There is absolutely no reason for that.
Right. So doctor, in these days, a lot of our students generally take projects also in France because they are relatively free in the month of June, July due to their summer break and due to some other reasons. So what you recommend to these students who were generally willing to take projects in France?
Unfortunately, I don't think the rules in India, I don't know, but I don't think the rules in India will allow them to travel to Europe this summer. July is almost tomorrow. We can see how cautious and rightly so governments are. It's about, first of all, it's about protecting the people. So very frankly, I would recommend to the students who were willing to go to France to postpone their physical journey there, but go online. We've put so many things online. Needy could probably give you a lot of connection. You can visit the Versailles Castle, you can visit the French Museum, you can watch French movies, you can do a lot of things online. So as I told some colleagues and friends the other day on the art scene, you know, you cannot go to the museum right now. Very good. Take this opportunity to really know better about the painters you know and the painters you don't know. Everybody have heard about Picasso or Manet. Why don't I go online to see who exactly was Manet, where are the best Picassos kept? So next time I'm going to France, I will be there. And you know, my dear friends, lovely university, the first university where we create an e-space France. And right now, COVID is exactly telling us why it was not a very bad idea or why it was a very good idea. Create your resources. If you need anything from us, any resources online, we'll be extremely happy to share them. They are already here.
Great.
I wanted to talk to you about eSpace France. Would you like to tell the students and would you like to tell the people present over here how eSpace France is going to bridge the gap between French education and lovely professional university?
It's much more than education. It's what bridge the gap between India and France. Very easily, Supriya. I need someone from your side to be constantly on the other end of the line with my people here, as we've discussed before. And any connection, I mean, we will give you all the connection. They're all for free. They're all for free. You can do everything I was mentioning before. And so for students who say, okay, I'm learning to discover more, to know more, could go online. Then you have NIDI officially sitting in Chandigarh, online services from the eSpace France, connection with NIDI in order to get a very strong support. Then from the eSpace France, I want to learn French because either I will study in French or I will study in English in France. I need to know the language or I want to know the language. And actually Indian students are very good, those who are learning French. So they could also do that from eSpace France because there is a lot of solutions online. Those, of course, are not for free because you have to pay the teachers, which is perfectly fair and which is a good thing for the global economy. But there is a lot of resources. And for me, eSpace France is the place, or if people are not allowed to go to the place, the place where the connection is made. So connecting with eSpace France and then connecting with the vast array, the all 9 yards of all our ties. And they are actually extremely wide and deep, our ties, much more than people think so.
Wonderful. Actually, and we have started working a lot towards endorsing French education and French culture and doing a lot of things around, French gourmet food and all. And you would be surprised to know that we are already working with NIDI to establish and engage with the students through a virtual regional tour of Campus France. We'll be doing that next month. Now, taking you away a little bit from international education and the focus being on you, you are such a celebrated diplomat and, you have done such wonderful things in India, established so many eSpace France. Actually, people have started, standing up and taking note of French education. You you just said that you speak a lot of languages. Even I have heard that you speak a lot of languages. How has your experience in India changed you, made you feel a connection to India? How has your experience been over here? Could you tell us about that?
A very personal question. I think it's my 52nd month in India. 52 months in India is absolutely nothing. If you realize the density and the immensity of what India is, but I think it gave me enough time to grasp what really matters. When I came here, people say, "Oh, do you love India or do you hate India?" And I say, "Why do you want me to love India or to hate India? I just take India the way it is. Like everywhere else, there is very good things, less good things, but it's fascinating. For me, India is a very special place in the world for two reasons. A, you're the youngest fastest growing country in the world. Almost half of the population is less than 25 years old. So whatever the Earth, whatever the planet future will be, it will be decided by India. India won't be the only country, but you will have a huge impact on the future of the world. And B, to think like nobody else think in the planet, or very few people, to live what I was saying before about not differentiating before all the various fields, but for you it's even more than that. You're able to live in different time scales and space scales at the same time. And for me, this is why I keep telling everybody I meet who doesn't know India, India for me is a lab of the world. This is where you can understand what the world could be or what the world has to face if it doesn't want to be this way. Look at the challenges you're facing. You have all of them. All of the challenges across the world, you can find them in India. Look at the skills, look at the capacity to innovate, and look at the capacity to say, okay, I'm going to my office, I'm living in a 21st century IT surrounded space, and then I'm going back home and I'm doing the puja. And that capacity to reconcile, to live at ease with the puja or any other spiritual or religious practice, and an extremely developed moment, this is something which only India has in the world. My only regret, and this is why I want to see much more Indian students in France, is that we don't hear the voice or the voices of India enough. People have been listening to China for already 3 decades. Of course, people keep listening to the US, and even, not such a large, physically speaking country like France is quite audible. India has to be audible. And the best way to make India audible is to send as many students as possible so that the young Brazilian, the young French, the young Moroccan, the young German, who is also studying in France, will discover India first-handly by discussing with an Indian friend. They are the best ambassadors. They are young, they are dynamic, and they are usually extremely bright. Specifically those coming from lovely Bangladesh.
You know that LPU is dedicated to sending as many students as we can. So I think the audience has a few questions. Dr. Lakhanpal, would you like to address those questions? I can't hear you.
Dr. Hartingh, so you have nicely explained many things, but people are asking few questions in the comment box as well as chat box also. To summarize the questions of 2-3 people together, I just want to understand that when the France is going to open their borders, and a few of them I am asking about that, tell us about the prerequisite for admission in French institutions too. So this is the 2 common questions that are coming very frequently on our chat box.
Well, Nidhi is much better than me for that, but very, very briefly. What is a good student for us? A good student is someone, of course, with good marks. That's for sure. If you're not good, you won't be accepted. But it's not only the marks, it's also the project. And it's specifically the case when we give scholarship, we always assess the quality of the project. Why do you want to go to France? In order to study what? Because what would you like to do after? So for the students, put yourself in a 2 to 5 years perspective. I want to get to France. I want to get that degree because with that degree, I would like to do whatever he or she would like to do. That's the first thing. B, we don't focus a lot, as I said before, but it's still slightly important, the knowledge of French. A student with already A1, A2 level for us will be better than someone who has absolutely no knowledge of French, and for a simple reason. Amongst almost 30,000 students I've seen going to France since I took my posting here. I've seen maybe 5 or 6 failed, projects. And those 5 or 6 failures were always because of a complete lack of understanding of what was happening, because of complete lack of knowledge in French. So we don't put the language level, there is no specific test you have to take and so forth. But if you can give yourself quite a good knowledge, it will help a lot. You could test your knowledge of French online. There is a test called EVA, like evaluation langue, like language. Alliance Française, Chandigarh has it. You could pass a test to know exactly where you are. We don't oblige students to have a specific degree in French, but we pay attention to that. And third, and that will be, of course, carefully studied by the visa sections, how are your economic situation? Are you sure that you will be able to enjoy your life as a student in France? Yes, part-time jobs, are allowed, but only part-time. So don't expect 60 or 70% of your resources to come from that. So good marks, good project, reasonable knowledge of French, and enough financial resources. That is a good file for us. And that explains why we gave more than 8,000 visas last year.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Hartingh. Since there are a lot of questions still coming in, I will request Kanika to filter them out and just ask 2-3 more questions, Kanika. Audience question.
Mike. The mic. Kanika, your mic is not on.
Meanwhile, Kanika gets her mic on.
Hello. Yes, sir. So the question from the audience is that, since the COVID-19 situation is happening and it's already there, what are the precautive measures that the French government is planning for the students?
Everybody, right now, it's a week-to-week evolution. Yesterday, our Prime Minister started to reopen completely the country, except for a few pockets here and there.
Right.
Theaters are still closed. So frankly, for me, by September, October, people will be allowed to go back to the campuses. What will happen, at least what we know will happen from today, is that there will be specific measure in terms of you will have to wear a mask in the classroom. Those little products we have here to cleanse your hand, probably checking the temperature before, probably put the application on your iPhone so that if you have met someone who is infected, we can treat you carefully. But you have to take into account that there is a learning curve about the COVID. Nobody knew the COVID in December, except a few maybe Chinese specialists. Now all the world knows about the COVID and knows better and better. So my guess is that each and every week we have a better knowledge of what is useful and what is useless. And this is why actually Italy, Spain, France are slowly deconfining or quickly deconfining people. Plus hospitals, doctors, nurses, they know how to treat much better than 2 months ago. In France, it's absolutely incredible to see the fail of people who had to go to the hospital to be treated, because actually most of the people now I don't need to go to the hospital anymore for that. And if I go to the hospital, I'm very treated. So my guess is that students will be expected to, like in India, to carry the measures. Won't be that pleasant because wearing a mask is not very pleasant. And I think probably they will not allow, at least at the beginning, 100% of the classroom to be filled, but probably more 50%.
Right. So, Councillor, being a student myself, whenever a student looks forward to the idea of going abroad to any country, whether it be Canada, whether it be America or France, everybody thinks of a certain, they have these questions on their mind. The most superior question is that why should we definitely, prefer this country over the others? So why do you think any Indian student should prefer education in France over education in India or any other country for that matter?
Well, education is interesting everywhere across the world, but Paris was voted the best destination for 5 consecutive years worldwide. And actually what they say about Paris, they wanted to say it about France. The quality of a student life in France is probably the best. Otherwise, Paris will never have that ranking for so long. If you look at the Financial Times ranking, business schools from France are amongst the top 10 year after year. If you look at something which is very important for Punjab, which is agronomy and agrobusiness, Shanghai ranking puts the large institution we have in the south of France, Montpellier, the best in the world. So I think the reason why people should pick France is because quality of the education. We are the best in France. I mean, if you look at the mathematical researchers, if you take the awards, the Fields Medal and all the Abel Award, France is number 1. If you look in terms of Nobel Prize, we are quite, we can compete. Remember that the Nobel Prize for the AIDS virus was shared between French and American team. The quality of life is frankly without comparison. The price is much better. It's actually, you know, if I sum up, I would say education, quality of the education on par with the best institution worldwide, US, UK, India, Japan, and so forth. Price equivalent to what you could get, for instance, in Germany, but quality of life, incomparable.
That is so nicely put. Thank you so much, Councillor, for being so clear and, you know, giving us a new perspective to think about when we talk about education and abroad in the coming few months and years. And with this, I would like to take one last question from the audience side. And sir, someone wants to know, what is, in your opinion, the best thing? While the pandemic still goes on, whether the examinations should be shifted online or it should be preferred that they are still conducted offline?
No, live with your time. I mean, if I would be like you, if I would be lucky like you are, being a student, what I will do now, I will find a good higher education institution in France, of course, offering online courses. Prepare. Right. I will get my registration. I will be admitted. I will pick the online courses, and I will prepare my physical journey to France. So as whenever the situation is ripe, both in India and in France, I'm ready. I'm going. And you know, 2 years ago, maybe I shouldn't have said it, I predicted that in a very tiny seminar that 2050's education will be mostly online. That students will pick that, you know, specialty from Salamanca University, that one from Punjab, lovely Punjab University, because we live, you know, education, higher education is credits. It's pack of knowledge and skills. And the future of higher education is actually a combination of them. And this is why students' mobility for me is important, but the partnership between lovely Punjab University and French institution is so important as well, because I would like your faculties to exchange with French faculties online. So you are a student today, you start learning French like, you know, a pleasure. You start asking Nidhi, what should I do? What is the best course to take? You get your register online, you apply for a scholarship. If you're bright, you will get it. And whenever you're ready, whenever the planes are flying again, the borders are open, you go. And you won't regret it.
Right. Well, Councillor, with this, I think it's time that we conclude the session, even though I know that this can go on and on and on, because whatever you've been talking about us is so relevant in today's times. And I don't think that someone would have handled all of the questions and queries so nicely. And before I conclude the whole thing, I would request Madam Supriya to please, give some concluding remarks about the session on how these interconnected societies today are facing, a change in the higher education scenario in the coming few years. Ma'am, please.
So, international higher education is about to, go in for a change. We are looking for changes. We are looking for a post-COVID era where international education would see a total turnaround. Probably our acceptance to hybrid and online models would be more receptive and in place. And of course, countries are also coming up with the right kind of solutions for online education, because right now, when we are in this COVID period, social distancing is actually becoming, at our doorstep. I saw earlier when in the counselors' conference room, everybody was wearing the masks. And so this is how we are going to be. So we feel that right now world is not a very safe place to travel. We are globally very, becoming very insular country wise. But this is not a situation which is going to stay. It is going to move over. We will accept the new normals, and of course, we will come back into a normality situation. Students will go back to different parts of the world, and of course, at LPU, we are very dedicated to sending students to France to study over there. We are doing a whole lot of work around it, and we have equally dedicated people like Dr. Bertrand and Nidhi and other people at the Institute of France. So, yes, good times are there to come and things are looking very promising. And of course, this alliance that has been created is going to really benefit the students of LPU. That is what I would like to say. And I would also like to thank Dr. Bertrand for taking out the time to, spend with our students, with them inside. It is always such a pleasure to listen to you. You're always, very thoughtful about the way you address the students. We're very thankful that you took out this time for us. Thank you so much.